ANC MP Vincent Smith is, there you see him in your shot, appearing there in court. Let's take you there live.
All right, thank you. The court has considered the application that was placed before court, as well as the submissions by legal representatives for the accused 1 and 2, as well as then an additional accused that will apparently be joined today. I did allow the media to film the proceedings on the last occasion. The court indicated, and I will reiterate that, as long as it does not cause an interruption of my proceedings or any specific invasion of the proceedings, I do not have a problem per se in this regard. I do not want movement around the court while the proceedings is proceeding and interference with the parties. There should not be any talking or communications, and as long as there's one attendant per camera standing stationary at the camera, and as long as they're all on one side as this is, I do not see any problems. If any arises, I will deal with it as and when that happens. But for now, the media may record the proceedings, video and audio, and take pictures. So there should not be any flashing of cameras to interfere with the proceedings. Thank you.
As the court pleases, Your Worship.
They calls Vincent George Smith, Europe Leeds, and Angelo Agrizzi. This is custody.
Smith, can yourself and Mr. Agrizzi just swap places? Thank you.
Thank you. Today is the 14th of October 2014. I read the court case number 78 of 2020. Says as Vincent Smith plus 2 others. There should be evidences as follows. The presiding officer is Mr. Vincent for the state advocate Bulanyomi and advocate Osol. Mr. Tayo appears for accusing 1 and 2. Mr. Agrizzi will be appearing for accusing 3. You should be letting us please before the court so that accusing 3 will be added and the accused is before the court. There should be an advancement in the safety of the constitution.
Please confirm your name, sir.
My name is Angelo Agrizzi.
Thank you. You are fully English conversant?
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, the matter on behalf of appeal number 1 and 2, the investigation is finalized.
Let's just deal with the joinder of Mr. Agrizzi first. He hasn't formally been joined. He's standing here, but I trust there must be an application from your side first.
That is correct, Your Worship. Your Worship, on the previous occasion of the presentation, on the previous occasion, Mr. Agrizzi was not in charge. We were informed that he was indisposed because he was admitted to hospital. Mr. Agrizzi, Your Worship, had submitted the sick certificate on the previous occasion to indicate that Your Worship, that he would be here on the next occasion. We had held the arrest of the accused because of that reason. The warrant of arrest was issued by that time, but we could not accept it because of the city law. The accused was arrested this morning, or an arrangement was made that he must report to the police station, and he is here in the worship. Therefore, the worship is going to just that he needs to join the document.
Mr. Witz, you are representing the newly joined, or the accused that the state intends to join then in terms of section 157. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir, and I'm instructed by the firm Witz Incorporated. That is the instructing attorneys, and I'm the counsel representing Mr. Agrizzi. That is all correct, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Witz. In respect of the joinder application, section 157 of the Criminal Procedure Act?
We've got no objection to that. And just to confirm what my learned friend has correctly said, unfortunately, owing to a serious health condition, Mr. Agrizzi was indisposed on the last occasion when an arrangement was made, I think it was for the 1st of October, for the arrest to take place. We then sent the attorney from Witz Incorporated, Mr. Zahir O'Brien, who came to court, and he handed the 2 medical certificates setting out what the medical condition was, the fact that Mr. Agrizzi had been hospitalized and is now under constant medical care and on permanent oxygen, which we'll deal with at a later stage. She then signed for the medical certificates, and by agreement with the state and the investigating officer, we then agreed that the 14th of October, according to what the doctor had set out in his medical certificate, which we'll hand up later, said that's the first time he can be exposed into public, especially with COVID and his now comorbidities and the fact that he's permanently on oxygen. So we arranged today. I've been in constant contact with my learned friend, as well as Captain Nevin. We spoke to each other. We made all the arrangements, and exactly at 8 o'clock this morning, by agreement, we handed ourselves over at the Bracken Downs police station where Mr. Agrizzi was there. He was then put through the books, processed, fingerprinted, charged. Everything was done according to that. And also, more importantly, I think it was towards the end of last year, Captain Nevin requested us to come to the VGM building to head office, where the special unit is now being set up relating to state capture and related cases. We voluntarily attended by agreement with him. We gave him a warning statement setting out briefly the position relating from the Zondo Commission, etc. He said he'd then let us know if and when a decision was made to prosecute or to add him as an accused. And when all this was done, we gave our full cooperation and assistance, and we then attended this morning, and that's exactly why he's here. So that is a little bit of background, and my learned friend is correct what she has set out. We would have been here on the 1st, but unfortunately it was something out of his hands. It was a health-related issue, and we'll attend to it when we deal with the bail application. But no objection to the joinder, obviously. It's section 157. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Witz. Right, thank you, Mr. Agrizzi. The court then informs you are formally joined to these proceedings as accused number 3. This is in terms of section 157 of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977. Your co-accused is Mr. Vincent Smith, which is accused 1, and the second accused is a corporate entity by the name of Euroblitz 48 Pty Limited. Do you understand that?
No.
All right, thank you.
Your Worship, as indicated earlier on, the President disclosed the docket and the indictment to Mr. Cairo today. But unfortunately, the office of the of the NPA that the NPA is closed to the country, and we will only open on the 20th, so we could not make it. I'm going to consider that this is all working very smooth, and I indicate
Right. Mr. Tayyip, satisfied with that arrangement?
More than satisfied. I'm indebted to my colleague, Your Worship.
Just the date again?
The date that we already worship is the 3rd of December.
Yeah. Back to this court.
That's what it is. The date that we already.
Satisfied with that date, Mr.
Arranged
Tayyip?
date. Thank you, Your Worship.
Mr. Smith, it appears that we are going to deal with an application for bail in respect of Mr. Agrizzi. It doesn't require your attendance at this stage. The parties have agreed that we deal with your postponement now so we can excuse you before we get into the bail application for Mr. Agrizzi. Your case postponed then until 3rd of December, back to this court 8:30. The state has informed the court that they have experienced some challenges due to closure of the offices and the provider of the disclosure documents have been somewhat delayed, but they will provide the disclosure to your legal representative in the interim. So this remand is for disclosure. Your bail is extended, same conditions as before. You understand?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. You're excused. Thank you, Mr. Tayyip.
I'm indebted to the court and my colleague. May I also be excused?
You're excused. Thank you. All right, thank you.
The first agreement is corruption. The total value is about 800,000. Worship, the submission of the same that is in the state of part of them. The other case of the Schedule 1 that is before the Specialized Commercial Crime Unit in Pretoria, where is appearing.
Sorry, let me just get clarity. I heard you say the charges against accused 1. So you're talking about Mr. Smith at this stage.
It is accused number 3, Worship.
Right, so that was just
It was my mistake.
right, so we're talking about Mr. Agrizzi now.
We're talking about the accused number 3.
Number 3. Thank you.
That's correct. So, Your Worship, this bail application will fall within Schedule 5. Your Worship, the onus is upon the accused to show grounds that it is in the interest of justice that he should be released on bail. Your Worship, the state has prepared an affidavit. A copy of that affidavit was given to my colleague this morning, and he also indicated that he will pursue this by submitting an affidavit in pursuit of the bail application, and he provided a copy of that affidavit to us this morning.
Are you able to tell the court the value of the matter of the corruption?
The value of the corruption, Worship, is 800,000. Here, Your Worship, it involves more than one person. There's three accused before the court. And also the fact that, Your Worship, the accused has a pending case that is before the specialized commercial court, Your Worship, and the matter is still before the Worship.
Do you submit that the combined considerations and the facts still present the court with a Schedule 5 application for bail?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Is the state going to oppose the application?
The state, Your Worship, is opposing to bail. My colleague, Your Worship, advocate also will dispose of the item of the affidavit before the court. That is correct, Your Worship.
Right, Mr. Agrizzi, you've already entered your name into the record by confirming your identity. I'm going to explain certain information to you. It's of high importance. I urge you to listen carefully. There is a duty on you to disclose to the court should you have previously been convicted of any offence at any time in any court. The time is now to disclose those facts to this court. If you have other pending cases apart from the current one, not yet finalised matters, you need to also disclose that information to this court now. Should you fail to disclose such information or only disclose half-truths and the state find that you have not been honest with the court, they are entitled to prosecute you with an offence. Conviction of such an offence may lead to up to 2 years imprisonment plus revoking of any bail that has been subsequently granted to you. Do you understand that explanation?
I do.
Are there any previous convictions that you wish to disclose?
There are none apart from traffic violations.
Right. And are there any other pending cases?
Not unless there's the case that's been held in the Commercial Crimes Court regarding the SASA.
Which commercial crimes court is that?
It's the one in Pretoria. It's the case, the state versus MT and others.
Is that case currently on roll? Are you appearing in that matter?
Yes, sir.
And have you been released on bail?
Yes, I have.
Yes, that would count as a pending, another pending matter. Apart from that pending case, is there any other pending case?
Not that I'm aware of at all.
Right, Mr. Witts, you already confirmed that you are representing the applicant in this matter.
That is correct, Your Worship.
This information that your client has just provided to the court, is that also your instruction?
My instruction is that it is exactly so. There are no previous convictions for any criminal offences whatsoever. I don't think with the traffic fines that he's talking about, it's not the traffic fine that is a conviction. As my understanding, there are no previous convictions at all, other than normal speeding fines or parking fines. But in regards to the pending case, we're appearing on Friday at the Commercial Crime Court in Pretoria. He was arrested on the 6th of February last year, 2019. My learned friend, in fact, one of my learned friends was present. Advocate Nukunyani is in the other matter, which also appears on the same day, which does not involve Mr. Agrizzi. It's two separate accused, which we don't need to put on record at this stage, nothing to do with him or any of his cases. And there is a case there where he's appearing on Friday. He was released on bail of 20,000 Rand, and his passport was handed, which is now expired, which we deal with in our affidavit. His passport was handed in to Colonel Lazarus, who's the investigating officer in that matter, and then he also disclosed that he was the holder, which was issued here in South Africa by the consulate, of an Italian passport, which was subsequently lost, and that was then reported to the Italian consulate here in South Africa that the passport had been lost, and the state were notified of that. So what he has told you, in fact, is correct in regards to no previous convictions, and that's the only pending case, and there's no other cases that we're aware of. The only other matters that he's obviously involved in obviously relate to the State Capture Commission, where he's been a witness, where he was the whistleblower and made the disclosures, etc., relating to some of these charges, which are now seem to be emanating and originating. And there's also been matters with the Special Investigation Unit, where he's been assisting the Special Investigation Unit, but those are not criminal matters. Those are commissions, etc. The only other aspect, Your Worship, that I'll deal with it now, is we were handed an affidavit from Colonel Lazarus, who's the investigating officer in the Pretoria matter, who at all material times the accused has been in contact with as and when necessary. There was an instance when the accused wanted to travel. The colonel held his passport, the South African passport. He had no problem at all returning it. There was then a request by the state capture that we need you, Mr. Agrizzi, because you are exposing and showing the country what has been going on in relation to Bosasa and various other aspects, and please, can you cancel? He'd already booked it. It was part business, part leisure, and by agreement he then said it's going to cost him money, but he'll have to do it. He complied with the state capture and with Colonel Lazarus. He cancelled his trip, and the passport remained with Colonel Lazarus, and it's been there ever since, and it has now expired. He's never applied for any other travel documents. And the Italian passport, the loss of same was reported when he found out that it was missing to the Italian consulate, and we'll give the court the necessary proof. It's in the bail affidavit. The only thing that I find very, very surprising, Your Worship, which I need to place on record, that from the outset, besides his cooperation to the State Capture Commission, which the learned Deputy Chief Justice Judge Zondo, Honourable Justice Zondo, is running, from the Special Investigation Unit, from all the aspects, he has been the only one, I must say, together with one or two of his ex-work colleagues, that has been cooperating throughout to assist to try and get them to the bottom of what was allegedly going on in the Republic of South Africa. My learned friend and I have been in constant contact together with the investigating officer, and now for the very, very first time as we arrive here, no indication at all. I'm now told, when my learned friend stands up, that they now want to oppose. There was never any suggestion of opposition to bail. We'd actually spoken about an amount, depending what the court would decide after hearing all the facts, etc. So I'm not sure what the position is now, why they now intend opposing bail. We even discussed amounts, we discussed whether there'd be any conditions, etc. And my understanding was, and in fact a draft order has been prepared by the state, that there would be no major problem in regards to our full cooperation, which we still give and we are giving. We handed over by agreement. We cooperated, the investigating officers. I'm happy if they call them, I'm happy to question them in regards to all the cooperation, etc. And now I'm told for the very first time, and you don't really expect that from colleagues, from fellow colleagues and officers of the court. If you're going to oppose, then notify your colleague beforehand and say, look, I'm either taking a point in limine in regards to a legal argument, or I intend opposing bail. This is the reasons why I intend opposing bail, so you can prepare yourself on the opposition if there is opposition, etc. So I find that a little bit disturbing from the state's point of view. I'm not sure what is actually afoot here, whose instruction or how this has come about, but it is a little bit disturbing as an officer of the court. So what I've now done in the interim, I was handed just before we started an affidavit of Colonel Lazarus relating to certain objections in regards to certain assets that have been disclosed, etc. So we're just doing a short reply, which I'm going to hand up later. We haven't had a full opportunity. But I would have expected, as an officer of the court and as a colleague, if you intend to either taking a point, it's common practice in all my years of practice, which is many years, that if you intend taking either a point or if you intend opposing, you just have common courtesy and common collegiality to inform your colleague and say, look, this is the reasons why I'm opposing, so you can then deal with it either on affidavit or on evidence, and this is the position, or this is what information we have. Can you give us an explanation? Do you want to rebut it? Do you want to counter it? Do you want to deal with it? So, as I say, I just want to place it on record. It's the very first time that we've ever heard of any opposition at all. And Mr. Agrizzi is also appearing on Friday in the Commercial Crime Court in Pretoria, where he was released on unopposed bail of 20,000 rand, February 2019, 6th of February, and up until the present date, other than his full cooperation assistance, not only to the state, but also to the State Capture Commission and also to the Special Investigation Unit and the South African Revenue Services, where he's attended inquiries and assisted them, there's never been any suggestion at all of any opposition or any problem in relation to Mr. Agrizzi. And the other aspect, of course, is that unfortunately, and we'll deal with it at a later stage, and I don't think the state obviously knew about it on the 1st of October when I made them sign for the medical certificates. His health has unfortunately taken a turn for the worse as well. So this is another aspect that we'll have to deal with and consider. But we'll first hear what the grounds are and what the position is, and if necessary we can then deal with it, although we're doing it very, very briefly so as not to waste court time and in order to try and proceed with the matter. And I gave my affidavit to my learned friend. I've only got the one which he signed and affidavit, and I showed it to her and I gave her the exact copy so she could check, because the police at Brackendowns needed to process him and I only could get one signed. It would have been a mission for them to go sign each and every one. So it's exactly the same. It's the one I'll read from and the one my learned friend has got, together with the annexures. So that is our position that we'd ask you to take into account.
Right, Mr. Wits, so my understanding from your submissions are that you will not be hampered at this stage to lodge your application.
No, well, I'm not hampered, but I'm just very, let me rather put it rather mildly, I'm just very taken aback by the sudden change in attitude and the reasons, and I would have expected as colleagues and as officers of the court, if I, for example, or any of my colleagues was going to take a point and say to the state, well, we are objecting to your charge sheet and this is the reason, or we are objecting to this witness, I would give them notice, I would give them proper opportunity to deal with it and say this is the reasons why. It's either a legal argument or a factual argument. To just get caught blindsided and taken by complete surprise and by a whole change in attitude. When somebody I'm not going to disclose because we speak as colleagues, and I've got utmost respect for Advocate Nkoyani and obviously Advocate Rousseau. I've been dealing with Advocate Nkoyani. When your colleagues and you are speaking, and I mean we spoke last night, late or early evening, to confirm, have you made arrangements with Captain Nevin to hand your client over at Brackendowns? I said it's done, 8 o'clock, we'll be there sharp. I still phoned Captain Nevin. He wanted to make it 8:30. I said, no, don't delay the court. We'll be there at 8 o'clock. We were there, 8 o'clock. We met him there. We went through, processed. Nobody ever indicated and said, well, now there's a problem. You've either done something or there's a problem in relation to something, and now we're going to oppose bail. To just be told in court and get caught blindsided, it's a little bit off-putting or a little bit upsetting, because you expect your colleagues to deal with you on a sort of hands-on basis and on a collegial basis, and you'd also like to know, well, what is the reason why you're opposing, so you can then deal with it, because there might be an answer to it. You might be able to deal with it. So I'm in a position to proceed with my bail application, and if I need a little bit of time, we have prepared a very, very short response dealing with some of the allegations that have now been raised, which appears to relate to assets and to the one Italian passport. Where the state knew about this, there's another advocate, Advocate Sarunia, who's dealing with the Pretoria case. He's the team leader in that case. Advocate Rousseau is also involved in that matter. Advocate Nkoyani, who's here today, is not involved in that. She's in a related but unrelated matter to Mr. Agrizzi. And we've appeared there, even through COVID, through all the appearances we've ever had to appear. We're at court on time. We've dealt with it, postponements, disclosure. We've cooperated and done everything possible. You would have expected that if you're going to do this, phone your colleague. You've been speaking to your colleague. Last night, all we were talking about, have you made the arrangements? Will you be at Brackendowns? And then we were discussing and we were doing a little bit of debating on regards to bail and the amount of bail. My learned friend suggested a certain amount. I said, I think that's a bit high, but it's not for us to decide. You put what you want to put forward, we'll put what we want to put forward. Let the learned court and the learned regional magistrate decide on the amount. All you had to do was say, listen, oh, by the way, I'm opposing. And these are the reasons for opposing, so let's not even talk about amounts or anything. Not to come to court in front of, and it seems that maybe this is an opportune moment for media to report on these things, where the state, who are prosecuting in these matters, seem to be either withholding or not dealing with it, or not dealing openly with the matter, and then they come to court in the morning, first thing, and as you arrive in court, they don't say a word. When they stand up, oh, we're now opposing. So I find that a little bit surprising, Your Worship, but maybe we'll hear what my learned friends have to say, because that's not the way to deal firstly with somebody who's been giving their full cooperation, and it's also not the way to deal with a colleague who's been in practice a long time, and you don't expect that type of conduct from the state side. I think that in the new South Africa and in a democratic South Africa, and with the way things are at the moment, you expect a lot more collegiality and a lot more cooperation. Unless you're in a matter where you sometimes get difficult opponents, or it's a difficult matter, and you're at loggerheads and you're debating and fighting and disputing about certain things, you don't really expect it in instances like this. And especially where, from the outset, when I knew that Mr. Agrizzi could not appear on the 1st of October, where I was in constant contact with Advocate Nkonyane, saying, listen, I'm sorry, he was in hospital recently. I didn't even know he was in hospital, because we had to consult. We have to prepare affidavits to assist the Zondo Commission, the State Capture Commission, and I couldn't attend to it because he was in hospital. And I said, now he's on permanent oxygen. So she said, have you got proof? I said, no, I'll speak to the doctor. So I spoke, we arranged with the doctor, and then I came and sent the attorney here to hand her the medical information saying what the position was. And at no stage was there any suggestion, well, look, we don't accept it, or alternatively, we're now going to oppose. So I just need to place that all on record, and I think it's important that Your Worship is going to be dealing and exercising discretion, is aware of the background relating to the matter. Thank you, Your Worship.
All right, thank you, Mr. Witz. Just before you take your seat, do you confirm that this application resorts in Schedule 5?
Yes, it is a Schedule 5 because of the pending case. That brings it into Schedule 5. In regards to the amounts, and in regards to as to why he's being charged together with Mr. Smith and Euroblitz, which is apparently a company of which Mr. Smith was the director, whoever will deal with the trial. And in regards to the amounts, what my learned friend has said, I don't think it would fall within the ambit, but for the pending case, because I'm not sure of the actual facts relating to this case. Because my understanding from, and we'll deal with it at a later stage, my simple understanding from the State Capture Commission and from all the evidence which at this stage stands, including what Mr. Smith said at the State Capture Commission, everything related to the late Mr. Gavin Watson. If he is the late Mr. Gavin Watson, we don't know about that at this stage, but if it's Mr. Gavin Watson, he did all the different dealings with Mr. Smith, not Mr. Agrizzi. So it's a case of, well, don't shoot me, I'm the messenger. It's one of those. So I discussed it with my learned friend as well. We were joking about it on the phone, and we actually said, well, fine, let's just process it, let's sort out the bail, and we'll then come, and once you've given us disclosure and you show us how we fit in, if we do fit in, we can then talk about whether Mr. Agrizzi should actually be your main witness, or whether he should be an accused, or do you want to shoot the messenger? So that's the kind of interaction that we've had. But at this stage, I confirm that it is a Schedule 5, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Because
and
of the pending
I understand from you that your application will take the format of an affidavit.
An affidavit, correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Agrizzi, again, the court is going to inform you of information which is of high importance. I urge you to listen carefully. Now, you need to understand that you are under no obligation whatsoever to disclose any facts, either by way of an affidavit or by giving evidence from the witness stand under oath, which may possibly incriminate you of the commission of any offences. If you, however, volunteer such information, it is being recorded as we speak. It may be used against you in any subsequent trial that may follow these proceedings. Do you understand that?
I do.
Now, Mr. Wits informs me that he has prepared an affidavit in support of your application for bail. Has he gone through the affidavit with you? Are you aware of the content thereof?
Yes, we briefly read it this morning.
Are you aware of the content thereof?
Yes.
Now, considering the caution against self-incrimination which the court has just directed to you, are you satisfied that he may present this affidavit in its current form?
Yes, he may.
I'm going to permit him in a moment to read it out aloud. At the conclusion of the reading, I will confirm with you whether you understood the content and whether each and every fact contained therein is true as well as accurate. Do you understand that?
I do.
Thank you. For now, you may be seated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wits.
Thank you. Your Worship, there's just one other, before I read the affidavit, I'll hand this to my learned friend. On August 22nd, 2019, Mr. Agrizzi hasn't signed this. This is just printed now. His instructing attorney notified the Italian embassy about the passport and that it was lost, and he was told that the police can't deal with it and the embassy must just note that the passport has been lost. So I will hand that up once I just get him to sign it, because I've only got the one copy now. It should have been attached to the affidavit, so that's the only thing. But I'd like at this stage to hand up the original. I apologise, Your Worship, it's just been clipped. I don't know if you've got a stapler or if somebody can just assist with a stapler.
I do.
But it is together. Give me the Thank you, Worship. With the permission of the court, I'd like to read it into the record.
Thank you. You may proceed.
It reads as follows. It's an application for bail in terms of Section 51A of the Criminal Procedure Act number 51 of 1977 as amended, together with Section 35 1F of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act 108 of 1996. And it reads as follows. I, the undersigned Angelo Agrizzi, do hereby make oath and say that the contents hereof are within my own personal knowledge and belief, save where stated otherwise or appear different from the context thereof. I am the applicant in the above-mentioned matter. I'm an adult South African male. I'm aged 53 years old, with my personal particulars and background as reflected hereunder. I've been advised by my legal representatives that it is now considered law and practice that in the bringing of bail applications, either the defence or the state from time to time do not present viva voce evidence, but rely on the production of affidavits and annexures. My legal representatives have further advised me that it is common practice that in the event that I do present viva voce evidence, almost without exception this will lead to me being cross-examined on the merits of the matter, which I submit is premature at this stage for reasons I shall canvass hereunder. Neither I nor my legal representatives have been placed in possession of the charge sheet or the contents and the statements in the criminal docket so as to inform me what the allegations against me comprise. I've therefore been advised to depose to this affidavit as I have the right to remain silent in terms of the provisions of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act 108 of 1996, the Constitution. My details are: my South African identification number is 67120354688085. My date of birth is the 3rd of December 1967. I am a South African. I am in possession of a South African passport, a copy of which I attach here to as Annexure Capital A. I previously deposed to the affidavit on the 6th of February 2019 at the Specialised Commercial Crimes Court, Pretoria. I was released on bail of 20,000 Rand and my South African passport was handed to Colonel Lazarus of the South African Police Services, the Hawks, and my South African passport expired on the 5th of August 2019. So that is the one that Colonel Lazarus still has in his possession. The same one that he was prepared to release, but he's kept it and it's now expired. I previously had an Italian passport which was issued to me by the Italian Consulate General in Houghton, Johannesburg. My Italian passport has been lost despite an intensive search of my house and belongings. I've not been able to find the passport. I'm in possession of a copy of the passport which I'm attaching here too. I have reported this to the Italian consulate, and a copy of this correspondence and the ID copy is attached as Annexure B. So, Your Worship, the only problem was I see they attached the copy, but the correspondence reporting it on the 22nd of August wasn't attached. So I'm going to ask at a later stage that Mr. Agrizzi can just initial this, and if I can get one of the Commissioner of the Oaths, either the attorneys or the court orderlies, just to confirm that, and I'll then hand this up as well, confirming it was reported on the 22nd of August 2019. My personal circumstances and background are: I was born in Germiston, South Africa. I reside at 97 Helderfontein Estates, where I've resided for the last 5 years. I own the property, which is valued at $13,500,000. The property is bonded with Abson and revolving credit, and I still own an amount of approximately $8,100,000 on the property. Attached as Annexure C is a copy of my bond documentation. I'm still the registered owner of the property, which was on auction but was not sold. I matriculated at Germiston High School in 1986. After matriculating, I commenced my studies at the hotel school in Witwatersrand. I've been married to my wife, Debbie Agrizzi, for the past 28 years. We lived together at the aforesaid address. And I have dealt with it at a later stage. The parties got divorced at a very young age, in the early stage in their marriage, but they've still been together as common law man and wife and in a universal partnership. So officially they divorced, but in essence they remained as common law husband and wife. So they've been together for the past 28 years. We have 2 children aged 26 and 28 years old, and 2 young grandchildren. My eldest child is married and employed. My youngest child is a doctoral student, university student, having completed a master's in politics and economics at the University of Witwatersrand. We are an extremely close-knit family, and my wife and I are attached to our children. I'm also extremely close to my brother and his family, who reside here in South Africa. Since I left Bosasa, where I was employed for approximately 19 years, and since 2017, I've been working at SEMEG, Hampton's Property and Property Matcher, where I earn approximately 55,000 Rand gross per month. I do have funds to pay bail in a reasonable amount. My wife and I, it should be my common law wife and I, own movable assets valued at approximately 2,650 and immovable property valued at approximately 14 million Rand. All my family members and relatives, including my brother, are living inside the borders of Africa. I do have funds available for bail, which my wife will arrange should this become necessary. My legal representatives have been in constant contact with both the investigating officer as well as the prosecution in the matter from the outset. My legal representatives further agreed to make a warning statement and to secure my attendance at court when and if my appearance is required by the state. And subject to what Captain Nevin will say, I think it was towards the end of December or beginning of January, we attended at the VGM building, where we attended to giving a warning statement in this matter relating to the charge that they were investigating. When Mr. Vincent Smith appeared in the matter, I was hospitalized, so I could not be present at the above honorable court, and Mr. Vincent Smith was appearing. I was recently hospitalized and I'm under medical care, and I have to use oxygen on a daily basis. I submit that should bail be denied for me, I will continue to be incarcerated until the conclusion of this matter, which I submit will be prejudicial as detailed hereunder. I'm advised by my legal representatives that in the circumstances I am presumed innocent, as enshrined in Section 35, subsection 3, subsection 8 of the Constitution Act 108 of 1996. We then deal with the judicial criteria, which we respectfully submit that this honourable court will take into account. I've been advised that the Honourable Presiding Officer will balance the interests of the administration of justice against my constitutional rights to be released on bail and to my right to privacy and freedom. I'm setting out further reasons why I'm a person who, in terms of the Constitution Act 108 of 1996, should enjoy freedom of movement, of occupation and of association, pending any trial that may follow in this court or any other criminal court in the Republic of South Africa. If I remain in custody until my matter is trialed, such detention will have a punitive and devastating effect on my life. Even if I'm acquitted, such detention will in all probability result in a substantial loss of my self-respect in the community, severe financial prejudice in my occupation and personal hardship to myself and my family, severe restrictions on me to prepare for my forthcoming trial. I'll need to research, prepare for trial, study documentation, and if I'm unable to do this with my legal representatives, I'll be severely prejudiced in my preparation for trial. I do not have any previous convictions. I have one pending case in the Specialised Commercial Crimes Court Pretoria, where I'm currently released on bail. I've appeared at each and every appearance at the Specialised Commercial Crimes Court Pretoria in this matter, and as I've already placed on record, Your Worship, he is appearing on Friday, the 16th of October, together with the other co-accused. The arrest and factual background. My date of arrest is the 14th of October 2020. The offence that I'm charged with, corruption. My intended plea is not guilty. My defence of the charges. I deny the allegation against me, and once I've been placed in possession of all the evidentiary material, I intend to submit written representations to the state. I'm advised that Section 61B of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977 as amended provides that where I'm charged with an offence referred to in Schedule 5, the court should order that I be detained in custody unless I produce evidence that satisfies the court that the interests of justice permit for my release. The schedule of the Criminal Procedure Act under which the matter falls, Schedule 5. We then deal with, respect, Your Worship, the considerations which we'd ask you to take into account in terms of Section 64A to E. Section 64A, danger to the safety of the public or any particular person of the public interest or committing a Schedule 1 offence. I submit that I'm neither a danger to the public nor to any particular person, nor will I commit any offence if I'm released on bail. I'm advised that should I commit an offence while on bail, I run the risk of having bail revoked in this matter should it indeed be granted. Section 60, in brackets 4 in brackets B. Where there's a likelihood that if I was released on bail, I'll attempt to evade my trial. I will stand my trial. I have no inclination whatsoever to avoid my trial. I submit that the fact that my legal representatives as well as myself have been in constant contact with entities of the state is indicative that I have no intention to abscond. Section 64C, interference with witnesses or evidentiary material. I will not interfere with witnesses, and I have no access to evidentiary material. I have to date not interfered with witnesses whom I know. I shall continue to have no contact with the witnesses I know, and I shall likewise refrain from having contact with the witnesses whose identity I become aware of. I do not know who the witnesses are, but I have a business relationship with Mr. Richard Leroux, and if he's a witness, I will not in any way discuss the matter with him, but I do see him for business purposes. Section 64D, where there's a likelihood that the accused, if he were released on bail, will undermine or jeopardise the objectives of the proper functioning of the criminal justice system, including the bail system. I submit that my release on bail will neither undermine nor jeopardise the proper functioning of the criminal justice system. 64E, exceptional circumstances, presence or absence, which may lead to undermining public order or peace, not applicable. Other relevant factors to be considered by the above honourable court. I'm a South African citizen with strong emotional ties in the Republic of South Africa. I have given my full cooperation to the arresting officers and all the people involved. Conditions to be considered for the purposes of bail. Any conditions which this honourable court deems fit to impose, I'll comply with. I respectfully submit further that the interests of justice do not require my continued detention. A substantial burden will be cast upon myself and my family if I were to be further detained, and I submit that the interests of justice must bear a wider meaning so as to include my fundamental right to my personal freedom and my liberty. In the premises aforesaid, I respectfully request this honourable court to release me on bail, subject to any reasonable bail conditions that this honourable court may impose, and I respectfully submit that it will indeed be in the interest of justice that I'll be so released. Then you will find attached to the affidavit, Your Worship, is the copy of the accused passport. You will also find a copy of the Italian passport, which is attached, and I will then, Your Worship, I just need to get this signed and affidavitted because it came through, it's supposed to have been attached. I'll just read it into the record and then I can then attend to the formalities so I don't delay the court. I understand you also have other matters to deal with at a later stage, and it just merely says on August the 22nd, 2019 at 5:13 p.m. This was an email from the Italian consulate and an email to the Italian consulate. We represent Mr. Angelo Agrizzi. Mr. Agrizzi has requested us to contact the Italian embassy on his behalf. He was the holder of an Italian passport which was issued him by the Italian consulate, Genera. an intensive search of his house. He's lost the Italian passport. He has not been able to find the passport, and through his legal representatives we've requested that he must contact the Italian consulate to inform me of the loss. I'm writing to you noting the lost passport, and this was done last year in August 22nd of August 2019, and the Italian consulate are fully aware of it and what the position is. And an important aspect to place on record in this regard is that Advocate Sarunia, who's dealing with that matter, the one in Pretoria where the accused Mr. Agrizzi will appear on Friday, I informed him, and he was fully aware when he said, well, what is the position with the Italian passport? And we sent him the letters and sent him the proof that the Italian consulate had been notified, so he was fully aware of what the position was in relation to the Italian passport. He then wanted to know about the South African passport, and we said it's with Colonel Lazarus, and he's had it all the time, even though he was more than willing to return the passport, and there were various negotiations, and we then decided we'll wait until state capture is over, because we still have to go back to state capture. There's various applications and various other evidence that Mr. Agrizzi is requested to give before the Honourable Deputy Chief Justice. So in the interim, the passport has actually expired, but Colonel Lazarus, who is present here, has still got that passport. So that is the position, but I'm not going to hand this up yet till it's been properly signed and commissioned, because I'm not sure the reason it was unfortunately left out. It's referred to in the affidavit, but the only thing that's attached is a copy of the passport. So at this stage, that is our application, and I've also prepared a very, very short affidavit dealing with certain responses in view of what we were told this morning, and I'll deal with that at a later stage once my learned friend has an opportunity to deal with their affidavit, so as not to waste any court time. Thank you, sir. And it was signed in my presence. I was there this morning at Brackendowns Police Station. One of the policemen, not related to or connected to this case, a sergeant from Brackendowns Police Station, kindly attended in the presence of the investigating officer, Captain Nevin, who was present, to affidavit this affidavit. And as I said, immediately I came to court, I gave my learned friend a copy of same, which unfortunately, as I said, is not a signed one, but I showed her the signed one so she could see what I'm handing up is exactly one and the same. Thank you, sir, at this stage.
Thank you, Mr. Agrizzi. Stand up for the moment. Did you understand?